Good morning, Union City. Happy Labor Day. Thank you so much, Lou, for all of your leadership and partnership, and to all of the esteemed guests here today. I want to thank President Tolman, Executive Secretary Treasurer Darlene Lombos, Vice President Brian Doherty, all the members, partners, and guests of the Greater Boston Labor Council, our partners in elected office, union leaders, and especially the workers who keep our city running every single day. I want to echo the deep respect, awe, and gratitude for our friend Lou Mandarini, who's enjoying a well-earned retirement after more than 50 years with Labor's Local 22. Since before I started my political career, you've been a mentor and a guide and a trusted advisor and someone who I could call when I could call no one else, and I will never forget that, Lou. We won't let you off the hook, even though we'll miss you in this current role. I know you're going to be right on speed dial still on vocational education, Madison Park, and so many other issues, so thank you for everything. And before I dive in, I also want to just make sure we all thank and recognize the members of Local 26 who are serving us today with this delicious breakfast, an incredible event. For many of us, today's a day to celebrate organized labor, but for many members of Local 26, today and this event is a work event, and so a huge thank you to all the servers and staff for making it possible. As you've heard and seen, this has been an eventful year in the labor movement nationally and locally. The Writers Guild and SAG-AFTRA launched major strikes in California and beyond, kicking off labor's long, hot summer. Fulfilling his promise as president of the Teamsters, Boston's own Sean O'Brien led a generational organizing effort inside the union, crisscross the country, and delivered the best contract that union has seen in decades. And here in Boston, at Mass General Brigham, the Council of Interns and Residents won 75% of the vote, organizing the first union in the hospital's history. Thank you to all of the workers who were up here a little bit earlier, representing every major industry in Boston's economy and community. We stand with you. It's clear that the labor movement here and nationally has momentum. But even with this resurgence, the movement can't succeed alone. Worker centers can't succeed alone, and workers themselves shouldn't be forced to defend their rights alone. In Boston, too many workers continue to find themselves in unsafe environments. Too many workers continue to be exploited because no one has ever shared what their basic rights are. And too many workers don't know how to access the agencies that can help them. But relying on the federal government or the state often isn't enough, because institutions that have several layers between themselves and our workers aren't getting directly to the ground. That's why city government, in partnership with unions, has such a unique and powerful role to play in protecting workers' rights. We are committed to being the best city in the country for workers and working families here in Boston. That's right. And we're committed to leaving nothing on the table when it comes to supporting our workers across sectors, trades, neighborhoods, and industries. That means applying the power and scope of city purchasing and contracting to drive fair and equitable labor standards all across Boston. It means ending exploitation where it's happening and stopping it everywhere else before it starts. And above all, it means keeping our workers safe. We're doing everything in our power to ensure that every worker in Boston can go to work confident that they'll clock out at the end of the day and head home to their families, healthy and well. To make all these things true, last year we created the City of Boston's first ever Cabinet of Worker Empowerment. Under the leadership of Cabinet Chief Trinh Nguyen, we have been establishing fair and equitable labor standards, promoting awareness of workers' rights, guaranteeing worker safety on the job, and doing much more. The creation of that cabinet was more than just delivering on a promise. It was about doing something the city had never done before, putting the full energy and attention of Boston's Labor Department behind protecting and advancing the rights of workers citywide. Over this last year, we've been executing on all those fronts. To ensure labor standards that are fair and dignified, we broadened coverage of the city's jobs, living wage, and prevailing wage ordinance that sets the wage for City of Boston contract workers. This summer, that living wage increased from $16.38 an hour to $17.55 an hour, applying to more than 700 contractors and vendors and over 5,000 workers, more than 2,000 Boston residents, and nearly 4,000 workers of color. To equip and empower workers to stand up for their rights, the Cabinet has partnered with our Office of Immigrant Advancement and Worker Centers to launch a series of Know Your Rights training sessions for immigrant workers in English, Spanish, Haitian Creole, and Brazilian Portuguese. 96 workers attended the first training, and moving forward, we'll partner with the Attorney General's Office and OSHA to host pop-up Know Your Rights clinics to make on-site referrals to those same agencies even easier. And because we believe safety from exploitation isn't the goal, it's the baseline, we've also hosted 4 small group wage negotiation workshops. Workers don't just deserve to not be bled dry, they deserve to be fully valued and fairly compensated. Most importantly, to protect the lives of our workers, the Cabinet led the creation of a construction safety ordinance that will take effect later this year. Thank you to the members of the Boston City Council for passing this ordinance. In direct response to a series of accidents that occurred in 2022, this ordinance will require contractors and builders to submit safety plans as part of the permit application for any building over 50,000 square feet and for demolition projects in buildings with 4 or more stories. That means for the roughly 45,000 projects that the City of Boston's Inspectional Services Department permits each year, every single one will have to have a project-specific site safety plan, detailing the training in place to protect workers and including all potential on-site hazards and safety procedures, updated annually or if conditions on the site change. But we know that workers, clapping, yes. But we know that worker safety isn't solved by creating more paperwork. That's why the ordinance also requires that all permit holders train every worker on the site safety plan in the language that they speak, with an overview of the hazards they might encounter, and on the procedures and equipment necessary to stay safe. For bigger projects, a site safety coordinator with 30 hours of OSHA training is required to be on site at all times. Too often in situations like these, the city comes up with a bunch of new requirements, asks employers to figure it out, and then shows up to enforce after things were supposed to happen but then didn't. We're not interested in that either, because our priority isn't being able to point to something to say we did it. It's actually keeping our workers safe. So we're partnering with contractors, especially small and medium-sized contractors, to ensure they have the tools and resources to develop smart plans for safety, but also to follow through and execute on them. We're providing OSHA 30 trainings for free in multiple languages to ensure there's no barriers to compliance. And we're proud to report that already more than 40 City of Boston staff have already received this OSHA 30 training ahead of the ordinance taking effect. And we're ready to do more. That's why I'm excited to announce the Worker Cabinet's next major project, a wage theft ordinance. In the coming months, our administration will work with unions and advocates in this room, alongside immigrant rights groups, legal aid groups, state and federal agencies, and produce an ordinance that puts the City of Boston on the side of ensuring that workers get paid. Especially in this moment, Boston must lead the way for working families. We know that to build the best city in the nation for workers, we need to start by being the best city with our own internal labor practices in city government. That has driven our decisions and innovations inside City Hall. We created a dedicated people operations cabinet to give our workforce the attention it deserves, revised our parental leave policy to cover more family types and include leave for pregnancy loss. We're piloting the city's first ever visa sponsorship program to support and retain workers who are seeking continued work authorization. And we're making commuting easier for our staff, offering a 65% subsidy on public transit passes and free Blue Bike memberships. We're proud of all this, but we know it doesn't mean much if our workers don't get paid when they're supposed to get paid and don't get raises when they're supposed to get raises. When we first took office, all 48 of the City of Boston's bargaining units had expired contracts, an unprecedented situation following an already shatteringly disruptive several years for city workers who were on the front lines of the pandemic. My first commitment was to ensure that we would do all that we could as quickly as we could to try to settle all these contracts with the wages and benefits that our city workforce deserves. Last night, we took another major step forward towards delivering on that commitment. As Local 718 President Sam Dillon nicely teed up, we have some news to share. Yesterday, we reached a tentative deal with the Boston Firefighters Local 718. Pending ratification, this tentative agreement is a result of months of staying at the table together, bargaining, focused on what our city needs, what our communities need, and what the brave individuals who keep them safe need every day. This is also a testament to our administration's unflagging focus on settling all of our contracts. Thank you to all of our firefighters for what you do every day. Thank you to our entire city workforce. I also want to give a shout out to all those who have been helping us get through these 48 contracts on the city side, our incredible Office of Labor Relations and Senior Advisor for Labor, Lou Mandarini, the other Lou Mandarini. As we settle all these contracts, and we're 90% of the way there, and when we have a fresh cycle that won't expire for 3 more years, our administration will stay on top of them and do whatever it takes to never allow a contract to expire without another contract that's ready to go. We're making Boston a city for everyone, and that means being the greatest city for labor, leaving behind the practice of reacting to labor issues only when they arise, and instead proactively seeking ways to protect workers' rights and improve workers' lives in partnerships with all of our unions. It means leading by example and taking care of our own. And it means recognizing that our own encompasses all workers in our city, workers without whom this city simply could not function. So I want to thank every leader, every union, every worker in this room for all that you do for each other, for the movement, and the service you provide every day for our families and communities in Boston. Happy Labor Day.